Okay. Unfortunately, I have come down with atypical pneumonia, which is something.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
It's basically when you get pneumonia other than from like the from the typical like viruses. So it's like bacterial and stuff, and we've had it go through literally everyone in our house except for me. I was the last person. I'm not smoking or vaping, Ducray. Thank you though. And I was the last person in the house, and now I got it, and yeah, it's wild. I go to the physician like 2 days ago, and I can like feel stuff in my lungs, and he goes like, "Oh yeah, you look fine. Everything in the chest X-ray like is fine." I'm like, dude, there's no way. I'm an athlete. Like I know what my body feels like. I feels like stuff is in my lungs. Like there's no way, you know. So he just, it was wild. Like he even in the manual like chest breathing thing, I was like, I couldn't even breathe all the way in, and he was like, sounds perfectly clear to me. I'm like, yeah, like what, dude? What? It was wild, but so yeah, basically my voice is like 25% RFK Jr. I'm like making my way to that moment. So
as long as you're not, going in the increasing direction of sounding more and more like him, I think you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that. Pneumonia, I've never had it, but I know that it's rough for sure.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's like 2 or 3 weeks, man. All of our kids have had it for like 2 weeks. They basically had it for a little over a week, and then they get antibiotics, and then they were cured of it. But it's just for whatever reason the physician doesn't want to give me antibiotics straight away. Very frustrating. So anyway, thanks for being here, guys. Thank you for coming. The Anti-MAHA Power Hour. Thank you, guys. We did not meet last week, so but we have like some interesting news. APAC, sorry, not APAC, ACIP, ACIP, the vaccine board. That's some interesting news there. And then that, Corey, you linked a really interesting NIH whistleblower thing too. So yeah,
there's a lot going on, and well, there's a couple of other articles that I came across. Apparently, there's so there might be an outbreak of E. coli due to people consuming cheese made from raw dairy. As in, it seems like the FDA, because it seems like I guess no surprise, or unfortunately, the raw milk movement is.
Yes, I actually saw that, dude. There was like, and the owner was like making TikToks about it, saying like, "There's no way that we, basically he was saying, no, we don't have an outbreak."
Exactly, that's part of the story of like. It seems like there were some cases linked to this specific brand of cheddar that's made from whatever raw dairy, and like whatever they're denying. And no, I mean, to be fair, no actual confirmed link I think has been confirmed. But the FDA is supposed to be investigating whether they actually will carry out an investigation. Well, I hope so, but let's just say I'm not remaining optimistic.
Yeah, especially with this. Like FDA, in order for them to like actually like go after that and test that, I think that's pretty. I mean, that's them doing their duty, and like environmental population genetics and monitoring is really important. But yeah, it's just like literally like so it's just very odd.
It's 5 people in California, 1 person in Texas, and 1 person in Florida became ill with E. coli infections between September 1st and February 13th. The Food and Drug Administration said 3 of them told state and local public health investigators that they had eaten cheddar cheese made by Raw Farm LLC, a family-owned farm whose founder said in an interview on Wednesday that no evidence of the bacteria has been found in its products. So yeah. pretty much confirming what you said of so far they're denying any possibility that these infections are linked to their.
I mean, like, I guess if you were raw milk, theoretically, you could do like due diligence, like population genetics on your milk and like monitor the bacterial populations in your milk to like see if you actually have a problem like with it. I don't think that any of them are pro science enough in order to understand or know what that is. So I doubt that they're going to do that.
Why would you need to test something that by its very nature has to be good since it's raw and from nature?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, I think Corey is exactly right there in that it kind of goes against the exact sentiment, the whole basis of this. I mean, this is a superfood that is being rediscovered in the modern age. And so like, why would I have to do safety tests, right? Like it is safe. That's the whole business proposition here. But even if, and if you were the type to do all of that, you would like the checks that you were discussing, Dr. Greg, you'd also be the type to goddamn pasteurize your milk.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's guys, just to be really clear, like you don't lose any protein or nutritional value when you pasteurize it. You're not even like necessarily like boiling it for like a certain amount of time. It's just like heating it to the point that like it kills bacteria and then like cooling it down. Like it's like it doesn't have to be like ultra pasteurized, which is, different than there's different levels. And pasteurization is like one of the best public health services that and easiest things that we've ever discovered, because it's so easy and there's no harm that's done to it. And so it's odd that like the only thing that you are protecting by allowing more people to drink raw milk is you're protecting people from getting sick. That's it. They're allowing that to happen. Excuse me.
And potentially people like these, again, no link established, well, no confirmed link. But I don't think it's a coincidence.
Yeah, because people they're not going to go to a ton of different places. You know what I mean? They're going to have like their place and they're going to have like their guy they like.
Corey, check your DMs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so agreed. I think these things are going to be relatively easy to track down. Like when you're in these niche fields, there's only so many opportunities you have to engage, right? Like engage with this product. And so, yeah, it's not going to be a challenge to find the source of this. Yeah, I don't know. I think that this whole idea of, like we found this superfood and that we believe we have some sort of secret knowledge that we're like rediscovering. Like it takes a certain sort of mindset, and not like a precautionary one, I guess, is where I'm getting at with this, right? Like a precautionary one would want to check the evidence. Like and would be doing these regular safety tests, would be skeptical of all these claims, but it seems like you've already where you wanted to, you're already at the place that you wanted to arrive in, mentally. And secondly, because there's something else. This is something personal. So I saw a documentary years ago, and it was on like PBS. And
Fake
it
news
was about
already.
But it was about milk, and it said that like camel's milk is like basically this. I know it's not quite as simple, but like to shorthand the conversation, like 3 times more nutritious than cow's milk. Like, and which kind of makes sense in at like how they process food and like store it. That maybe it would come out a bit more concentrated and better, right? And so like I've always wanted to try cow's milk. Or sorry, camel's milk, excuse me. And I literally been following the process, because before it was like illegal in America, but then there was like a whole like slow legal battle And now it's illegal now, but like it's only a few places you can get it. It's like, you know, kind of expensive. The point is, why am I bringing this up? It's not just to extol the virtues of camels, but like if it was the case that what you're thinking is, I want something more nutritious, right? I mean, that's a fair thing. Well, like there are other sources. Like, why even just like stop at cows, right? Like, if the point is just to get as many nutrients in your body as efficiently as possible, well, there's lots of ways to do that, right? And eating solid food is actually a really good way of doing that. It's like it's more calorie dense or
Pro tip.
nutrient dense.
Pro tip.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's because like just like really think about this, right? Like, why go through this route, right? Like there, and I'm sure Corey has like a whole list, you know, being a vegan, like you, like just that, like you. No, I don't mean that in insulting way. I'm saying that
No,
like
you
a
can.
vegan,
I know.
yeah,
That you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Vegans like take their health seriously, right? In a way that I don't. But like you have to plan around your food in a very particular way, right? And so you're aware of like, you know, like what's, you know, in like various like meals, right? So like you can do this, right? Like you can get like healthy foods into your body, right? And in an efficient way and do all that. But specifically, what you've gone is like on like this culture warrior kick where like like I got to do the raw foods path, right? The raw milk. This is better, right? Rather than just like if it was just nutrition, you'd just find something nutritious, you know?
Yeah.
You're exactly right. They ended at the product, and this is why this is the frustration of all these MAHA like supplement sellers, referral link people. Like this, when you're a hammer, everything is a nail, you know. So everything becomes like, oh, it's red light therapy, you know, or it is you know, an algae tea, you know, and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, why would that ever be, you know, this? It's like, and it's the same thing with raw milk, right? A raw milk seller is going to always champion raw milk. You know, they're always going to say that that's a good thing, as opposed to you know, being like, I'm going to have the best product possible. If I want to make a superfood, what kind of superfood am I going to make? How can I make it, you know, grass, or how can I make it, you know, past safety standards so that, you know, more people can take it. So, you know, so I can understand this process better. It's always just packaged in this like grifting, like sleazy, you know, scenario. It's gross.
Absolutely. And just to, well, at the risk of maybe going down maybe a weird rabbit hole, but on this topic of milk and how, you know, this obsession with milk can get pushed to its extreme, and I'm not just talking about cow's milk. So also in the vein of like a documentary, there was this documentary, I believe it was on Netflix, where like they were going over some, you know, biohacking is all the rage for many people these days, and like there seems to be some segment in the bodybuilding and, you know, quote unquote health or wellness or, you know, natural health community that are like now, you know, into, you know, drinking or consuming human breast milk. And there are people that are literally like, you know, tracking down, you know, women who are willing to sell their breast milk to like, you know, some bodybuilder or some person who's like, who really wants to consume human breast milk. Where in the documentary that I saw on Netflix, like they were tracking this person, well, this man who was a bodybuilder, and like they got in their mind that, oh, you know, human breast milk, you know, has all these growth factors, is really going to like, you know, up my gains. And they really went out of their way to like, you know, track people online, like on Facebook that are, well, women that are going to like sell their breast milk. And he like, you know, just started stockpiling it so he can have a consistent supply of human breast milk.
That's yeah. I mean, it's weird, man. I think Chef Kelly, if you wouldn't mind coming up, I would love to talk to like a researcher, a food scientist in this area. That'd be so cool to learn, like, especially what you learned. She was just at the Future of Food Tech Summit in San Francisco, which is a biotechnology company developing synthetic human milk. So that'd be amazing to have as a guest. Give you a few minutes. You got it. Yeah, whatever you need. Go for it, Prime. Do you have?
Oh, I was just nodding my head along with you guys. But I was listening to the human milk situation. Like, I mean, like it's like human milk, because I know some people are interested in this, but like it's like less like nutrient dense, in my understanding. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, please. Than like,
to be honest, I have not looked at the nutritional breakdown of human breast milk because I have no interest. I think there are other ways of meeting your nutritional requirements.
Yes, exactly. The point we're getting at. But like, yeah, that's my understanding. Again, hopefully our food scientists could elaborate on that part for us. But like my understanding is that, like, you know, the benefit of that, like, it's just like to like human infants, right? That like the specific mix is like exactly what their gut health requires, rather than, you know, cow's milk, which is significantly different and harder on the gut. But I think it's like overall more nutritious because cows eat like a bunch of stuff and like pack it in. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself there.
I genuinely have no idea. I would assume, no, I don't know. I mean, I know that different milks have different nutritional content based off of like fat percentage and stuff. Like, I know whales, for example, have like the highest fat percentage content because they need to, like, you know, blue whales need to like bulk up as fast as they possibly can, basically, because they're the largest organisms that have ever existed in the history of the world.
Intuitively, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know in terms of like of that. I mean, I'm actually like, I genuinely probably think that like the future of food, like milk, is probably going into the like ultra processed like space where like Fairlife is going, where they basically like deconstruct milk into components and then they rebuild it together. So then they can, you know, take out lactose, or they can take out things and have like really high, you know, protein content and stuff like that. I would assume, and now everyone, because especially GLP-1s are like really interested in proteins, you know, I would think that that's only going to increase in popularity as we go forward. But I don't know, like renewable energy wise, you know, that probably takes a lot of energy, you know, and so I would assume plant-based milks are like are good, better. They have to be better.
Depends. I can only say from like I occasionally drink oat milk, but that's about it. But even then, from, and not a huge consumer, but from what I gather from like reading some of the labels on some of the oat milks that I buy, like, well, no surprise, a lot of them are like fortified, you know, have stuff added in them. I would assume, I actually know for sure, but I assume just like whatever pure oat milk, there's not much nutritional value in there. But I could be totally wrong. But most of the plant-based milks that I come across, they're usually fortified with other things, trying to simulate, you know, whatever the vitamin D and calcium that you find in whatever cow's milk.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
I think I had almond milk like one time years ago, and that will be.
You threw up right away.
Ever. I was the end of that.
Is it really that bad? What? Like,
it's not. It was not great for me. I'm particularly picky, so I.
All right.
Like,
yeah, that's true. That I know. But yeah.
I don't think I've had oat milk. Maybe I have. But if I had, it was probably also one time. But I maybe I haven't. So I might be imagining it and just like preemptively being disgusted. Yeah.
Not that I was ever like, well, after like the age of like 14, 15, 16, like I more or less like stopped consuming milk. Just because, like, yeah, I don't know. I just actually, it is kind of strange looking back or retrospectively of like, I did like milk growing up and up until like my teenage years, but I don't know, something happened with my taste buds of like, this no longer appeals to me. Or I don't know, maybe just the concept itself, just like drinking something from a cow just stopped appealing to me. So I stopped.
Yeah. Bro, my entire family, I mean, we have 4 kids and I drink it for my protein shakes and stuff. So we're like, it's just gallons, like a gallon a day. It's insane. So it's wild.
What kind of milk? Like
whole
milk?
Yeah.
Whole milk.
No, you're taking RFK's recommendations then.
Whole milk it tastes better.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that. Whole milk probably does taste better. Like,
yeah, it's the best milk.
Well, anything with added fat is pretty much going to taste better.
Like the rationale is like, I'm not gonna be cutting and drinking milk, right? I'm going to be drinking water with my protein. So if I'm cutting, so like if I'm with milk, I want as much as I can get calories wise, and especially with the kids, and we want it to be like luxurious so that they're getting the protein so that they can, grow. So that's the kind of rationale.
Big, strong athletes like their dad.
We're trying, man. It's hard to get kids to eat. You'd be very surprised, bro.
I'm not surprised at all. You would be surprised at how not surprised I am about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I was telling Corey, I'm extremely picky.
Gotcha.
Myself.
We've had these conversations
growing up. Yeah.
Is there like still like milk delivery that still happens? I don't actually know. This might.
I mean, DoorDash or Instacart. So yeah.
Corey's expecting a 1950s style.
The milk,
and
the milk
all
delivery
white
guy.
suit.
Yeah, exactly. Delivering the
they
white
did that
liquid
when like refrigeration wasn't a thing. That's why they did that.
That's right. Dude, Lucky Dog. Wow. In chat, hey, Dr. Gray, I heard you were mentioned in 2 other lives today in a positive way. Wow. Thank you for that. That's cool. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think I don't know, guys. Just the raw milk stuff, avoid it. You know what I mean? All the raw stuff, like just avoid it. Make sure you're getting pasteurized products. It's not healthy for you. They're dangerous in a way that you wouldn't want to be messing with it. And yeah, I think it's pretty. There's just no need. I feel like in life there's like no risks, or you want a 0% risk when you can. You know what I mean? Like in a video game, you don't want to have a risk, but you don't have to. There has to be a trade-off, and there's 0 trade-off for raw milk. So it doesn't like be a video game character in your life and choose the best in slot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
You go first, please.
I was gonna say, even then, like just this obsession, like with milk and like whatever, they have to have this natural form. But again, in my analysis, which could be incorrect, of like just drinking milk in and of itself, I find somewhat whatever. Most of the world is lactose intolerant.
It is weird.
Looking at the numbers.
Drinking cow's milk is a little weird.
Because I think it's like at least 60-70% of the global population is lactose intolerant. I think that's the norm globally.
It's a European flex.
Yeah, exactly. But if you really want to drink milk, just to promote local startups, there is a startup in Montreal that I know of that they are called, the company is Opalia. They are trying to develop the world's first cell-based dairy products.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I wonder how cell-based. I wonder if that's the synthetic one that she's that the food scientist was talking about.
I'll link it in her chat. But they're trying to basically produce milk just using cells and bioreactors. Well, you probably know just as much as I do or more.
Huh.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I just wanted to double down just quickly on that. Oh, not on what he said, but on the idea of like, what are your nutritional goals? Like, if you're like really interested in raw milk for whatever reason, right? Like, let's say even if you don't like fully believe, like Dr. Greg or our friend Corey here, who have insight into this field, right? Let's say you don't believe them, or like tons of other scientists who will tell you how dangerous this thing is, right? But like, still, like, there's an idea that there's some sort of danger out there, right? Like there is some level of risk, even if you think that risk is like quite minimal, right? Still, you could probably do the same thing. If you like understand your nutritional goals, you could probably just like accomplish the same thing with like 0 risk, or almost as little risk as possible when eating foods that you don't prepare, right? But still, like you could just like do that. Like if it's like to get more calcium, they're like sources of calcium, right? Or vitamin D or whatever. Actually, I don't know what's in milk. Let me not say too much before I embarrass myself. But yeah, like you can find that stuff, right? And like intake it if that's what you really want. If you think that pasteurization loses, that's whatever it is being lost, right? Well then, why not just get it from somewhere else and like not even have to mess with this whole thing? You have to even like it's oftentimes you have to pay more for like the raw milk, right? It's a specialized thing. So like you'd probably save money going to like regular sources to get exactly those nutritional that nutritional content, whatever that might be for you. So why don't you just do that?
We know what it is. It's cell lysate. So basically bacterial cell lysate. So like it just popped dead like bacterial cells and all the proteins that are like there. So you could literally just take pasteurized milk and then just put in a scoop of cell lysate. We use it in the lab to feed our bacteria because bacteria love to get some Loria broth. It's like
LB, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's literally what it is. It's like cell lysate, the proteins and stuff that are there. But yeah, you're exactly right, Prime. There's no reason. In sometimes they're called prebiotics. So that's like that. The prebiotics is basically the food for them. But again, the problem is that it gets digested in your stomach. Doesn't really work. So.
Is that nutrition scientist?
I invited her and she's not coming up right now. So let me know, Chef Kelly. I invited you. So if you didn't get it, let me know. I just sent her another multi-guest invite. So let me know. And let me know if you didn't get it.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, again, as I was saying before, like it's this is clearly a cultural war thing, right? Like,
Exactly.
and it's like one of those like oppositional things, right? Like just because they say that I can't, I will, you know. It's like I feel like that's not a good way of like managing your health, as especially not the health of your family, right? Like, just like I don't know, man. Like first of all, raw anything like introduces a level of risk, right? Like you understand, like if like unless you are also the type to like fully go down the path, eat raw meat, right? Like if you recognize there's a danger there, right? Then why not? Like why do you think like raw milk? And I know raw doesn't actually mean the same thing, which means meat and that, right? I get that. But like still, like there's a preparation that we do, right? We prepare meat and other food products because we understand microorganisms are a thing, right? Even before we knew what microorganisms were, right? We understood, hey, eat this thing raw, equal get sick, right? And so I don't know why we have to like relearn this lesson here. I don't get it. Prepare your food.
Well, be careful. We now have, actual, caricatures or people that are caricatures like the Liver King without going down that rabbit hole.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like unless you're that guy, right? But even then, he was BSing most.
Yeah, he's all roided up and growth hormone up
You
as
too
well.
can get ab implants. Chef Kelly, thank you for joining us. Thank you for hopping on. We always love like the panels. We always love like when experts come up. So thank you so much for hopping in chat.
Welcome.
My pleasure. I thought I was going to be on camera. That's why I was like set up in my office with everything. But I'm just coming on as a voice. That's fine. That's cool.
So what do you think about like we were talking about like raw milk and that potential outbreak from that farm? So I guess like your thoughts, and I'm curious about your future food tech conference that you just went to.
Yeah, it's all just so crazy. I've been sort of going into those rooms, like the MAHA moms rooms and the Moms Across America rooms for a while now to gather insight and do a little recon as to, what's really going on, right? And you'd be surprised that like 80% of them aren't the like, generalized sweeping anti-vax and pro unpasteurized milk. But there are sort of the fringe few that are, and I understand people wanting to have a natural resource of milk and with as few antibiotics or science interference as possible. But there are real life, and this as well as I do because I work in food. There's real life risks to that. Lots of different kinds of foodborne illnesses and diseases, as you mentioned. So, I think it's a slippery slope. I do.
I'm curious about the synthetic human milk idea. Like that is so wild. Like how are they making it? Like what are they? I guess they're making the components and then they're like in vitro, like creating them and then bringing them together.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to how they're creating like cell-based meats and proteins, or fermented meats and proteins. They're somehow extracting the cellular or DNA structure out of a human's breast milk. And I'm assuming, and I don't know much about it because it was kind of behind closed doors a little bit. We all got to see just a smidge, but
Gotcha.
it was more like, I think it's for mothers who are having a hard time breastfeeding and want to and can't kind of thing. And there's a big thing, this as well as anybody, that this big shame behind that, and I think that this was trying to, as a biotech company, try to create a synthetic human type breast milk. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, on one hand, I'm like, okay, cool. On the other hand, I'm ew. I just don't know how I really feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, just so if anyone is nursing or thinking about having kids, formula is perfectly fine. It has everything for full neural development and everything like that. And, supplementing with formula avoids your baby going back into the hospital and heading to the NICU with something like jaundice or something like that. Because if your milk doesn't drop for 4 days, a lot of these all natural moms aren't actually feeding their kid for 4 days after they've had, coming into the world with a super dramatic event, and the kid is hungry and the kid wants to eat, and for 4 days they're not eating. So they start going, down a bad path, and then they have to go back to the NICU. And my wife sees those patients all the time. So don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel
less than a mother.
Yeah, for the mom. Yeah, don't feel shame. It's totally okay. The baby is going to be totally fine. Supplementing with formula. You basically, the idea is breast then bottle, and then the baby just takes what they take from the bottle, and then that's it. So I feel that is a thing.
And if you want a little bit more, sorry to interrupt. If you want a little bit more insight into how the synthetic milk might be happening. So again, to promote a Montreal startup, if you go to opaliafoods.com, okay, that's one of the companies, the startups I'm trying to do this. And on their website, they have a little brief overview of their workflow, where pretty much they go through how it's made. Cells are isolated from the mammary gland of the cow. This only gets once. Cells are fed a mix of sugar, salts, amino acids, and grow inside a large vessel called a bioreactor. Lactation is initiated in these cells inside the bioreactor using our fully continuous proprietary process. Milk is harvested from the bioreactor and transformed into the dairy products you know and love. So,
you said cow, though. That was synthetic cow milk?
Step number one is cells are isolated from the mammary gland of the cow.
Of the cow. Okay. All right.
And then those are put into a bioreactor, and it looks like they're fed all the stuff they need to grow and survive. And then they say that they initiate lactation through some sort of proprietary process.
Hormonal, hormone, activation. Yeah. It's very common and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Interesting.
What was the name of that website again?
Opalia Foods. So OPALIA Foods.com.
Thanks. All right. Check it out.
Yeah.
Wonder if it's the same brand that was at the
Interesting.
event.
Yeah. Well, Chef Kelly, I'm really interested in how you're using AI and machine learning for food tech as well.
Yeah, it was really a strange show for me because I've spent so many years in the food industry and product development that this was my first real tech show. So the way that I've been using it is, so I'm ex kind of big food, ex Nestle, ex Disney Studios, and a couple other places. And I left Nestle because I really wanted to pursue what was going on in AI. I saw a lot of hope for it as far as, food scarcity and sustainability and just all this stuff, right? I ended up going to a cohort at MIT to learn AI and machine learning for data science. So I'm not a data scientist, but I can clean and parse my data so that I can analyze it and get really great results, right?
Yeah.
So I went to this show because I had just created a platform that helps R&D teams find natural colors that are perfect and consistent with whatever application they're using, beverage versus bakery, whatever. But that's neither here nor there. What was really interesting is that it really dawned on me as I'm watching all of these CEOs from the biggest names in food on the main stage doing panels all day, really not having any clue about what's really going on in AI in the front lines. And, you know, and a lot of them, you know, are very, I think a lot of people invested in plant-based back in 23 and 24, and also in vertical farming, and got really burned. And so all of these food companies are telling the audience, we're desperate for food tech, we're desperate for innovation, give us whatever you got. And then all the VCs and investors are saying, we're really gun shy, there's not a lot of money out there right now. So it's a very strange dichotomy for food innovation and for, you know, moving forward.
Interesting. So like, I guess like, what are the applications for AI to present like new proteins or create new type of
Lots of that. Yeah,
like,
lots and lots and lots of new proteins. Like I was just at the new the Natural Expo West show 2 weeks ago. That was all about proteins and fiber.
so the idea being that you're using AI to artificially like transcribe, translate something that is in like a alpha folds kind of like scenario, and then seeing how that'll kind of like bind together and to create kind of like a structure that you could use for food. Is that like, I mean, like, I'm just curious. Oh, if you're she might have gotten a call. Yeah. She's tabbed out.
But just,
there you go. There you go. Yeah.
I heard you. Yeah. There's a lot of cellular grown meat or cultivated meat companies out there. One of them that's doing really cool stuff is called the Better Meat Co. And his name is Paul Shapiro, and he's using mycelium to create this ingredient that's like a very meaty texture. It's got tons of, you know, antioxidants and vitamins and all that stuff. But it's the ingredient that plant-based companies would bring in if they don't have their own lab or they're not creating their own version, and then use that to create their chicken or steak or whatever. It's all very like really B2B, like back there B2B, like 4 steps ago B2B.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I wonder, because a lot of times they're actually using like 3D printing as well in order to actually construct like the meat structure. Like they'll literally 3D print, you know, layer by layer the actual like patty. So I'm curious. I wonder like that
I haven't tried that. I have seen that. I don't know how I would feel about that. I'm a little gun shy of cultivated chicken as well. I would try it. I mean, I would, but
nope, she got a call or something. Yeah, there's a Blue Nalu is the company that I'm like specifically thinking about. There, they do fish.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Let me look that up. Yeah, sorry, my phone keeps cutting out, but I'm gonna put it right over here where it gets the best reception. Okay.
It's all good. I feel like this is the future. I genuinely feel like it's going to be the future of food, and like we have to use fermentation techniques in order to create the proteins that then we like eat as humans. And basically it's just going to be technologies trying to put these building blocks together, because climate change is going to make outdoor farming, like there's going to be too many external negative factors. You know, you're going to lose. We're basically, as a country, we're going to be, you know, paying billions and billions of dollars for farmers insurance. And we're going to say, why are we spending billions of dollars on failed business models when you could just throw up a beer fermenter basically, and then you could just run, you know, some yeast or something in there that then we could use as beef patties. It's just going to make more sense.
Well, I think we're just going to see a lot of hybrid meat, like where it's half real ground beef and half being fermented or cellular ground.
Yeah. Corey, I'm curious about your thoughts.
Well, yeah, I agree that those technological innovations is the future, both in terms of sustainability and probably just, you know, at the end of the day, I think what will ultimately win out is like, since we can ultimately engineer these meats, whatever the food, like to a T, like tweak everything to like the perfect amount of taste and texture and flavor. I think that's just ultimately going to win over people. But what I do want to ask if they want to say or share is, so in this vein of technological innovation and what is also appears to be part of the MAHA movement is like their push towards what they call regenerative farming, or like that's the solution also to everything. It's not technological innovation, and they're understandably like most people, they're against factory farming, but they promote this aspect of or they say regenerative farming is a true way forward, not any sort of technological innovation, or like we need to transition away from factory farming to regenerative farming. Is that something that you hear? I can't remember your name, Chef
Kelly.
Kelly, sorry, I apologize.
In a room full of crowded people, and you yelled out "Chef," I would turn around. So I agree with you, and on one hand, I'm very Pollyanna about what AI and what innovation and clean science can do for us, because let's be honest, for the last 30 years, we've been the victims of some pretty dirty science, right, in our food system, and I definitely think that regenerative is one way to go. I think that there's regenerative for the people who want to keep the earth and the soil and as clean and natural as possible. And then there's innovation in science that can close those gaps between the food scarcity and reducing those methane gases and carbon footprint, right? But here's the thing, because this was a lot of conversation as well at the forum. How are we even going to talk about regenerative? Now, don't get mad at me when I say this, but how are we even going to talk about regenerative when we can't even get these insecticides and herbicides off of our commodity crops that are basically toxic to our food system? It's like you're building it all on a house of cards.
Yeah, I'm not a proponent of regenerative farming. I'm all I'm all for largely technological innovation. But like that's a lot of the pushback that I hear from those that are, let's say, part of the MAHA movement, or those are, on the right largely. They want to go back to whatever, I guess, whatever traditional farming, but really there seems to, but based off of, again, I haven't done a deep dive, but based off of the limited research that I've seen on regenerative farming, like there seem to be some benefits, but from what I can tell, this is not like the solution to climate change, or this is not really, it's not really going to overhaul everything that we're doing.
Well, Corey, unfortunately, and this is very unfortunate, our food system is highly politicized. I wish it wasn't. I don't think it should be. But, you talk about reducing the amount of cattle head, and ranchers get really upset. Mm-hmm. You talk about corn subsidies, and half the farmers want out, and half the farmers say, don't touch my subsidies. Yeah. It's all, and then you've got the lobbyists who are in each state trying to, pass weird things to the farm bill. It's very political. And that's what's, I think what's slowing down our innovation more than anything.
So, first of all, hello, Chef Kelly. Nice to meet you. Hi. I was unfamiliar with you. I went over to your page, and it looks absolutely delicious. Like, oh my God, like if you haven't seen her page, I'm like looking at all the things she's preparing. I'm like, I wish I had some skills here because it looks so freaking good. So I just wanted to start with that. But beyond that, though, I think I think this conversation is interesting. Like, and I wrote down a few things here. Like, starting off with, like, I guess going backwards. What you just said about wishing the food supply wasn't political. Well, I think there's no choice for it to be political, right? Like, food is a scarce resource, and we have to decide, and the land it takes to grow it, and the whatnot. Like, we have to decide where those resources are going to go, who's going to be in charge, who's going to benefit the most, winners and losers, right? That's inherently political. And my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, I could be wrong, is that like that's like literally the origin of politics. So, like when we had to store our grain, and decide where it goes, right? Like, politics, yeah. And so, like, I feel like we should instead embrace the fact that it's political and fight on those grounds, and say that, like, hey, have these specific policy solutions, whatever they might be, and be putting those things forward as a better way of doing things. So there's that. Well, actually, I'll stop there in case you want to respond to that, and I have other things to say.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You know, I think that there, with AI and the knowledge that it brings, if people are doing their research through it and doing it right, which means citing your sources, always bringing receipts, Dr. Craig knows, a lot of people are going to be shocked and very disappointed in finding out the truth about our food system. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just a flawed system where a lot of people 30 years ago came up with a lot of food additives that made them a lot of money and cost us a lot of health problems, you know? So to reverse that is going to be difficult, but everything is kind of coming to a head. And I think that, like, I was in the airport today and I was like, God, remember when people could smoke in the airport, could smoke on the plane, could smoke at restaurants and stuff. And it was the people that, if the tobacco companies had it their way, everybody would still be smoking anywhere they wanted to, right? But the people said, no, I'm not going to get cancer because Bob over here is smoking. And that's kind of what we have to do, is we have to say, you know, I'm not going to buy your product, or I just refuse to accept that this is how you want to feed our country and, you know, how you want to treat our food system. But that's not, like, I don't get on a soapbox about it. I sort of, I mean, I can, but I won't. I just try to live in the solution. I try to bring things to the food industry that can little by little solve those little problems that make big differences.
My slight pushback is just that, like, and I agree with like pretty much everything you just said, like, but like my slight pushback is that, like, whatever you bring is inherently political. And just like be related to, like, embrace that, like whatever solution is something that's going to go against someone else's interests, right? And then that's a fight, you know, no matter what.
Yeah. I completely agree. I 100%. I'm with you.
I think the biggest positive political change that we can make that would impact our food system and our renewable energy production is...
Don't say regenerative farming, please.
No, it's reversing that Bill Clinton bill that mandates our gas to have 10% ethanol, which basically subsidizes all of these corn, you know, basically it linked corn prices to oil prices. And that's why there's so much corn planted everywhere. And I think, to Chef Kelly's point, like, it's actually going to come to a head when we, you know, kind of start phasing out gas cars, you know, in the next, you know, 20 years here. We're going to see less and less of them. So that means that we're going to have less gasoline, which means that we're going to have less of a need for the ethanol, which means that these corn farmers are going to need to have something to plant. And I think that phase shift is a good opportunity. It's actually right now is a really good opportunity to start moving them over to some type of like fermentation based production for renewable and sustainable, you know, materials, fuel, food, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, there's been a lot of advancements in the industry, you know, like what I was talking earlier about clean color. And by 2020, the end of 2027, all U.S. food brands have to remove artificial dyes from their packaged products, which is great. It should have been done 15 years ago, but they're all scrambling because there's only a certain number of people who make the natural dyes, and R&D teams don't really know what to do with it. But here's the thing. When you run the numbers, like, beets are used to color food, right? An acre of beets can earn a farmer 650 times more than an acre of corn. And there's other crops like turmeric for the yellows and blueberries for the blues and so on and so forth. And I really feel like a lot of farmers could benefit from starting clean color crops, but, you know, it takes the region. It has to be the right soil. It has to be the right climate. And how many corn farmers can have clean soil after they've been in these contracts with the Bayers and glyphosate Roundups for so many years, which has depleted any nutrients in their soil?
On the topic of, so if I'm understanding you correctly, or if I heard you correctly, like the artificial dyes are going to be phased out in the next few years. But like, I'm curious if you want to say, or like your view on it. So these dyes, they are used, I think, for a variety of purposes, but like one of them is like I think, just to make food look more attractive. Of like, I think one of the reasons why companies use them is because like, well, this entices people to buy whatever food that is using the dye. And I think that even holds true for like, I don't know that I'm pretty sure no actual fruits or vegetables are dyed, but you probably know better than much more than I do, of like, it seems like food aesthetics plays a large part in the consumer choices that people make. Of like, an apple needs to look a certain way, even though the apple that is not quite as aesthetically pleasing has all the same nutritional requirements, probably tastes virtually identical. But just like food aesthetics seems to be a big thing. I'm just curious of just your overall thoughts on like dyes in general. Like should you not also maybe potentially just ban all dyes whatsoever, just for the sake of whatever natural food?
Well, first of all, I want to say something to Miss Cake. She was like, what about ground up bugs? Yes, there is a color called carmine, which has this little teeny prehistoric bug inside of something that they were grounding up and using for color. But rest assured, there's been a lot more innovation on the way, because I don't think people want to use carmine anymore. So you're right. Like, for instance, Florida oranges. Florida oranges don't ever get that bright, orange color that we see in all the commercials. They come out kind of a dull yellow, greenish. They spray Florida oranges. Yeah, they spray them with food coloring. Orange B is what it's called. And orange B isn't even approved for human consumption. So, well, we're not supposed to eat the peels, but I didn't know that, like, after peeling my orange, I needed to wash my hands unless I get some ingested, And this is what we're playing with. We're playing with a half a deck when it comes to some of our alphabet agencies that know things and push it aside, or know things and don't do anything because it makes a lot of other people a lot more money. With that said, though, there has been, and Greg, I'd love for you to back me up on this, because there's been so much debate about whether artificial dyes cause things like ADHD or autism and things like that. And in my research, I have found that there's substantial evidence that it can contribute to the symptoms of ADHD. Like, your child can kind of go through wild mood swings or have some hard time concentrating and focusing. A lot of people go through chronic fatigue too, with regards to certain artificial dyes, but they are petroleum based at the end of the day. And I don't see any reason why we should be putting petroleum based dyes in our system if we have the opportunity to switch over to natural dyes.
I mean, I don't know. I've not looked at any of the studies. I mean, I think, like, on that stuff, usually like the dose makes the poison, right? So it's like, I don't know how much is actually being exposed. And I mean, I think that, like, artificial dyes are nefarious in the fact that it makes people more likely to overconsume because they look more appetizing than they are. So it's like an overconsumption mechanism that, like, food scientists use to basically exploit people with. But I don't know if, like, necessarily it's that. But I mean, I don't. Yeah, I'm not well read on it.
Oh, but there's one more thing, that some of these food dyes also sort of concentrate the flavor of the sugars, like the high fructose corn syrup, so it makes it sweeter, which is another thing that, we're kind of addicted to the salt and the fat and the sugar that's in all of our foods, and that just isn't helping any. Oh, and it also doesn't help when they give you medication that has the dye in it as well. A lot of pharmaceuticals use those same FD and C dyes. So.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, like, I don't know. I mean, stuff with, like, just, I don't know. I think, like, palatability, I guess, is like a separate question, sometimes, because it's like, we talk about, like, the beige buffet, sometimes where I'm giving with my kids, because, I'm at, like, 4 kids, and I'm like, I accidentally give them, like, I make macaroni and cheese, and then I have, like, chicken nuggets, and then I have, like,
they're all the same color,
like, apples, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, look at that. That's all the same, like, shade of yellow. Like, that's crazy. Oops, I did not mean to do that. but I guess like just the ability to have something, or just having something that's pink makes my kiddo more likely to eat it for antibiotics, for example. But that those are use cases that are specific and not like used specifically. But I don't know whether or not we should use them at all. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the natural food dyes right now are way more expensive for food manufacturers to use than the old synthetic dyes. So that's going to be a problem too. But here's the thing, like Canada and the UK have banned a lot of these colors like 5 years ago. So many of these food manufacturers have been making them for the other countries that just haven't been making them for us. And I think that the aesthetic thing, I think it'll be figured out with innovation and science, more clean color innovation. And I also think everyone will just get used to it. Like we'll get over that it's like a magenta instead of a deep red. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, that's where I see a little bit of a conflict, or sort of now obviously not a big deal, but like this pushback against dyes. But then as Greg brought up, which is a great example of like, these dyes clearly have a purpose of like, if it entices your child to like whatever, eat this vegetable or eat their food, it's like there's clearly a consumer demand for these dyes at some level, because it's like, well, again, for whatever reasons, just like logically or whatnot, like we just prefer food with a certain aesthetic. Like, no one wants to eat the bad looking apple or orange, even though it's just going to taste just fine. But just the fact that it looks a certain way, you can speak with much more expertise on the choices that even supermarkets or grocery stores make in terms of like, food presentation and, what gets shown to the consumer, where everything is placed and all that stuff. And like, what apples make it to the store versus which ones are discarded, which oranges make it to the store, which ones are discarded. There's clearly like this huge aesthetic aspect to it that it's like, like on one hand, we're like saying, no, these dyes are bad, get them away. But we make choices that drive putting these dyes in there.
Yeah, imagine more food waste. Like we already have.
I was about to say
90% of the food that we make is already food waste. So it's like, man, imagine if it increases like the food waste now. It's like, oh man.
And that's the problem that a lot of these grocers create, is that they'll turn away produce that doesn't look like shiny, brand new, picture perfect for the produce aisle, but it's got to go somewhere. And a lot of them don't donate it to their local communities or shelters. Although there's been a lot of food policies sort of in talks, and some states are introducing them where finally they'll be offering grocery stores and retailers a tax break and a benefit if they go ahead and try and donate that to their communities who might be underserved in the food scarcity system.
Didn't like Fruity Loops or something like last year just switch right over to like all natural stuff, and then they got nothing but complaints, and people were saying that it's like, why does my Fruity Loops look sick or something? And it's like a picture of both of the bowls of cereal, and it just basically looks like a filter or something, like a 19.
DM that to me. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Sworn, maybe I'm like hallucinating it, but I could have sworn that they that people like complained about it, and then they just switched back because they're like, never mind, like this is not worth our time. But I don't know. I mean, it is. Yeah, I feel like I think we have to. I think we have to make our food systems more renewable, sustainable. Work on those materials. And work on the impacts that we're having on the environment, so we can conserve the biodiversity that's here. I mean, that is my like main, I guess, goal in that. And while we are making this switch, like it's like incredible. We could make our food more nutritious, I feel like, with this switch to fermentation based. But
we can. It's absolutely on the table. How do you feel about the use of AI in like food tech and food innovation?
I think it's inevitable. I mean, I use AI like, when I made my anti-vaccine tracker tool, I'm using AI in order to track those bills, in order to make the templates for people. I used AI in order to make the website. I wouldn't have been able to make the website without the AI, I think like it's a way for us, and we have to, as scientists that actually want to improve the world, like I feel like we actually have like a duty to make things that are actually good, because people don't see positive use cases with AI right now. Basically, they only see Palantir. They only see, you know.
Now, I'm afraid of Palantir too. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But we're losing the social credit, you know, really quickly, you know. And I feel like you know, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, this is, you know, we developed scienceandfreedom.com, which is like the first pro-democracy tool that's ever existed, that was created with AI, and we use AI for good, you know, for the first time. You know, so it's like, you know, because I want people to think that like, oh wow, this could actually be a tool that can actually help me, that can actually make my life like better, possibly. So I feel like we kind of have to you know, use it and also like talk about the benefits of it.
Did you see the Bernie and Claude conversation video yet?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
I think like, I mean, it's weird. He wasn't using the rational, like the super reasoning model, which is weird. He was using Sonnet, not the Opus, which is like the best.
I didn't notice that. Was he really?
Yeah, which is kind of weird.
Well, maybe. Well, I don't know how it works, but I imagine he has to like pay a fee or subscribe to it.
You could just switch down.
Oh, okay.
Then
I think he may just not know that there's another model.
I think that there's like legitimate fears. Like if we weren't, you know, under the boot of a fascist government right now that was, you know, trying to dismantle science as an institution, you know, jail, you know, throw people in jail, perpetuate like genocide in the Middle East, that's like using AI legitimately, you know, for really bad things. Like we would basically be in an alternate world is, you know, us actually working on getting people some type of job security, or you working out universal basic income, or, you know, figuring out how we can actually, you know, what we need to do is make the profits from these AI that are used in the business model, tax them so that we can actually, you know, reap those benefits as a society. Because if we keep them all in the hands of these companies, then we will have nothing for the workers. So we really have to like seize those products and those outputs. So it is like the preeminent problem of our day. I think that like human extinction is like the thing that I've dedicated my life trying to prevent, you know, through climate change. But I think that like 100 million people in the United States, 150 million people in the United States within the next 10 years could be unemployed permanently. So I think that like we have got to do something about that. And it's what's the problem is that Trump has gone down such a bad path, is that like we're going to have to use this time to kind of reconstruct our entire institution at the same time trying to fix these new structural problems that we've never seen before.
Because we can't go back either. There's no going back to the old democracy or whatever. It's going to be a whole brand new road. And you're absolutely right about AI. And it's a race, it seems, for these big tech companies to get their data centers open and basically own the electric grid, which is, it's becoming a power struggle. It's becoming a wealth struggle. And I truly believe, like you, like we are 100 million consumers strong, and these people need to remember where their money comes from.
Yeah, and it's trained off of human labor. Go, Corey.
I was going to inquire if Chef Kelly wants to say, is like, so your interest is in AI in food science and food research. And when you say AI, and I have no problem saying like I'm largely ignorant on AI, but like, are you referring to like these large language models or like some other AI system, or like, you know, these LLMs and other things as well, or like something a little bit more specific than the LLMs, or just AI?
It's use of LLMs, right? And there are closed source ones and open source ones that you can work with. We're not going to get into the whole like really boring instruction on that, but like Yeah, it's called applied AI. So I'm not out there building new models and coming up with scientific methods to, and algorithms to put into the new models. I'm taking the models that exist and I'm just creating layers on top of those that are sort of like become my knowledge base. Does that make sense, Dr. Gray?
Yeah,
Like,
there's something a little bit more specialized.
Pardon?
It's like something that's a little bit more a more specialized large language model, if I'm understanding correctly, or I may be misunderstanding.
Well, like well, I've just been using it for so long. So I will do research in several different AI large language models. Like I'll use ChatGPT, deep research. I'll use Perplexity, deep research. I'll use Claude for certain things. Claude is great at writing. But then what I can do from there is I can aggregate my data and I can run it through these pre-programmed systems that, are like, it's called Rapid Miner or Data IQ. And it kind of creates for me my own miniature large language model, but it's built on top of whatever model I've chosen it to be. So I could choose a Gemini model to build it off of, or I could choose a Claude, Sonnet, or Opus. I'm not explaining myself very well. I'm very sorry.
No, that's great. Well, I think these are probably difficult things to convey. But I think I understand the overall sentiment. But yeah,
it's kind of like custom GPT, but like on a just bigger scale, basically.
And largely for research purposes, or
to enact the research. So now it becomes my workflow inside of that language model. So it's sort of like for the dye situation, like it kind of becomes its own little food scientist in there, learning about food dyes and where the heat can turn a red to brown and things like that.
Okay. Then
you need to train on a specific data set, and then therefore it kind of becomes like an expert on you can give 1,000 files, to Claude Code, and it can work out and create a specific app that's just for your purpose. And then I feel like that is like the new way to do it, especially with like OpenClaw coming online. And OpenClaw is, I truly do think that it's like revolutionized AI. And Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, said this week, he gave guys, NVIDIA gave a keynote on it. In his keynote, an hour-long keynote, he gave a 20-minute presentation on just this one piece of open source software that came out. So it's just wild. Basically,
I forgot that was this week, wasn't it?
Yeah, you should watch it. It's wild. Basically he described it, and I think that he's correct. It's basically kind of like OpenClaw is an operating system for AI. And before these models and stuff were kind of like individuals, individual programs and stuff like that. But now through OpenClaw, they're actually kind of like linked together in this large like operating system. And you can kind of like, log in, and it's kind of like booting up OpenClaw for the first time is kind of like booting up a computer that has nothing like installed on it. So, but wait, the thing is that you can just talk to it and it can start building the tools that you need. And it's wild. I've had OpenClaw for like a week and a half now, 2 weeks.
How are you liking it?
I mean, it's really cool. I basically have like Claude Code and OpenClaw. That's like my two that I use, and I go back and forth. I basically OpenClaw is like my super assistant. It's like linked into my Google account. It's linked into everything else, and then Claude Code is kind of like my workstation kind of thing
inside the house, right?
Yeah.
So what can Claude Code be an OpenClaw and go out and do your errands for you, or is that what makes OpenClaw able to do that if Claude can't?
Sorry, Prime. Are we getting like too in the weeds on this? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No. I assure you, I'm not reacting to you. No, okay. Keep going, please.
Basically, OpenClaw is open source, so it can work with any model, and it can integrate with anything. That is the two big things. So, like, I already had like a media center in my garage that I've had for like 6 years now, and it's just basically like a bunch of like media center stuff. And immediately I basically told my OpenClaw, like, this is what this server is. I need you to log into it and run it and optimize it. And it was just like, okay, done, you know, and it just immediately fixed a problem that I had been trying to fix for 2 years. It just like found that problem and just fixed it instantly and optimized it like I never could. I was like, oh, well, there you go. That's cool. And basically I have it, you know, through OpenClaw installed on my Mac Mini, but then I tell it to be installed on all my PCs. So I have like a 2 PC streaming setup.
Wow.
It works and automates everything between all my PCs and creates them all together. So it kind of like, it just creates like a network, like again, like an operating system with all these different models that can kind of, you know, come together and make a more cohesive environment. But
my last question for you is OpenClaw using MCPs or APIs to connect to these outside sources, or how is it doing it?
yeah, so that's a good question. You can do both. Basically, like I used Composio, which is basically like a it's an OAuth, like off-site thing that you just log into all these different things, and then it's basically an MCP.
Very cool.
It's an MCP that just logs into your OpenClaw, so you only have to log in one time to all these different websites, and it permanently has your API keys and everything. So API keys are basically the handshake deal between you and whatever website you have. So it's like, how do I know that this is your account, this is your authorization, your thing? So every time that I want to, you know, look
like
at
the
YouTube
waiter between the
analytics,
table and the kitchen, basically.
yeah, how do I like check my YouTube analytics? How do I know like that it's me? You know, basically that API key is like a unique encrypted key that exists only for me. It's a secret key, and I need to have that like saved. And that's
Don't ever give it away. Don't make it public. Ever.
yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, my point is that AI is genuinely like revolutionizing things at a crazy level, and I feel like we have to use these tools for good. We have to, and we need people like us to be actually like using them and creating the tools, because otherwise these billionaires are not. You know what I mean? And the billionaires are going to use these tools against us. So what do you think that the billionaires
They already are.
Yeah, like the billionaires want us to not use AI, right? They wouldn't want us to use AI against them. Like, no way. But so in a way, you kind of need to be the strongest enemy to your enemy that you can, right? You need to use the AI that Elon Musk fears, right? And I think that is the only way that we're going to use leverage in order to actually like fight this thing. So I'm curious your thoughts. Scienceandfreedom.com. That's like I basically, yeah, it's an interesting website. I use machine learning and crawling to scan 10,000 different bills within 50 states on the United States, looking for pro-science and anti-science legislation.
Scienceandfreedom.com.
Yeah, scienceandfreedom.com. I'm actually interested. Prime. I mean, this is actually. I told you that. Like I showed you the MAHA tracker, the Google Doc thing, like so a long time ago, and I would love for you to go there on your phone, and I would love to see your reaction to it. So, scienceandfreedom.com. But if you don't want to, it's okay.
I'm actually going on my.
No, I see it. Defend science. Take action.
Yeah. So then you can put your address in, and then basically we don't store it. We find all your representatives for you, and then we template and make your if you're on your phone, you just hit a button and it automatically copies the email, and then you just it goes to your email app. You hit send, go back to the app, go hit next, and then boom, 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 boom. You can make 6 different emails, really, really quickly. So
wait, and that emails all 54 of my reps? That's how many it says I have.
Did you put in your full address?
I just put in my zip code. No? Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you need to put in your full address. That's why, because it's a zip code is going to have all the reps in your zip code.
Gotcha.
So I think it's the most advanced political organizing tool that that people have ever made, like genuinely, and I think it's the most the only pro one that's ever existed. Don't invite anyone that's not. This is like an expert only thing. Thanks though, Heather. I appreciate you, but yeah, not right now. So anyway.
Right. Cool.
So I was wondering, you guys are having a really good conversation, so I didn't want to interrupt anything there. Um, uh, so okay, well, I had a few things I wanted to say previously. Before then, I was just curious because you had said it before at the very start of the conversation, but you said you took some sort of course for AI machine learning.
Yeah, I took a cohort at MIT for professionals. So I didn't go like Cambridge or anything. It was an online 6-month cohort back at the end of 2023. No, yeah, at the end of 2024 into 2025. And became certified in what they called AI and machine learning for data science solutions. That's what the certificate says. Yep, I did. Everybody
AI
thought I was crazy, but I did it anyway.
AI machine learning for
data science solutions.
For data science solutions. Okay, well, don't think I didn't notice that MIT name drop. No, it's okay. We hear you.
100%. I mean, my friends say that all the time. They're like, "You just embarrassed that you can have that on your resume," and I was like, "Yeah, 100%. I did."
No, absolutely. Absolutely freaking yes. Yeah, do that. 100% how I do. And you'd better know, I wheedle that into any conversation, right? We're talking about the benefits of pineapple juice. Somehow I'm going to put MIT in there somehow.
But okay, throw that MIT name drop in there.
Yeah. But in any case, thank you for that. I'll look into that or any similar programs. I've seen programs advertised.
I've been seeing on LinkedIn lately that MIT is actually, they released like 10 free AI, just like getting to learn it courses that anybody can take 100% free. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. I've been seeing some courses from other schools about that. I know MIT had a thing on that. Did you get like a scholarship or some sort of not scholarship or I don't know, some sort of.
I did. I actually got a partial scholarship because you're going to hate me for saying this. I'm the first chef in the world to earn that certificate from MIT. And
nice.
At the time, I had just left Nestle, and they were very excited to have a Nestle chef come in and take the program because they wanted me to come back and talk to other people who might be considering it in the future and tell them all the wonderful things about it. So yes, they gave me a partial scholarship, which was nice.
Oh, okay. Oh, fantastic then. Okay. Well, going backwards, actually, before I leave this, it might be useful if you maybe make some sort of video. This probably wouldn't work well on your particular channel. About your process that you were describing in terms of your research and what you're using. I imagine that might be useful for other people who are because I
created around the holidays. I have a couple different AI communities that I belong to, and on the holidays I made this sort of vibe coded research resource center that has Stanford Storm is a great place to research if you're looking for major cited research papers that you can trust. And then all these news sites that will debunk, misinformation or fake news, and government sites that you can go to look up, public papers and stuff. And I was thinking about making that public, just throwing it out on the internet and seeing if anybody would use it. And it also has really great information on how to keep your LLMs from hallucinating too. And I think that's a thing that people are still really, really scared about. So maybe I'll release it. I don't know.
I know Corey and I are interested in AI and machine learning. And so and I'm sure that we're not the only ones out here. You've seen, this courses seem to be have taught you quite a bit. Sharing that knowledge with people, I'm sure would be quite useful in any way that you feel you deem appropriate. But okay, so moving back from that then, the thing I wanted to talk about was what you had said quite a while ago about that VC money, right? You talked about how those individuals, these guys they're just rich individuals. They're just like wealthy people, right? Looking for places to park the money to invest, right?
So I PTSD from that show. It was just I was so out of my element. I'm so out of my element. It was crazy.
Yeah, and it's it's not a surprise that they wouldn't, happen to be subject matter experts on this particular thing and then be cautious, right? Because you talked about, like, for instance, vertical farming, which I remember, like, seeing, like, the documentaries or videos or whatever, right, on how vertical farming was going to change everything, and then it was not that, which is really a shame. Very exciting. Yeah. And so, like, what do you see as, so now that I'm getting to my question here, like, from your vantage point, like, looking out into the field currently, like, what innovations do you think are actually worthwhile, and, like, what do you think is scalable? We were talking about the meat printing and the whatnot, right? And maybe that'll be scalable in the future, but, like, so far, like, very far from it. So, like, do you see, like, green sprouts somewhere?
Do I see bean sprouts?
I say green, like, sprout, like,
promising leads, I think, is.
Yeah.
I think,
but a food fund.
You guys might enjoy this. If you go to a website called the Cultured Meat Symposium, CMS, I think they just had their most recent symposium not too long ago. I actually went to it 2 years ago, and it's already changed so much. People can get really freaked out about cultured meat because they think it's sort of like in vitro, or they think it's sort of like genetically modifying things, and a lot of people don't like that. I think there's good and bad depending on how you look at it. I definitely think that there's room, just like Greg said, like, hybrids and bringing down the cost of these cultured meats or, cultivated meats. Because if we're really thinking about the world population, if we're really thinking about the climate change and how it's going to be much more difficult to grow things or to herd things or whatever, I do think that we're going to have to look to innovation and science for that. But we've got to bring that cost down per pound of those cultured products or fermented products, because right now they're just not affordable enough for mass scaling and putting out on the market. So I also think, though, it would be great, very Pollyanna, if more governments invested in the cultivated meat process to bring down that cost per pound or the cost of making it, while they were also supplying that to the countries and the regions that are food scarce. Does that make sense? Like, if they actually invested in the technology of it, they could kill two birds with one stone. We could be helping the environment, and we could be bringing down the cost, three birds, and bringing down the cost of this new type of innovation, this new meat innovation. And we'd be feeding, impoverished communities with it.
So you think that, like, the reason why this technology isn't ubiquitous is not because we haven't had a technological breakthrough. It's just because of funding. That, like, we haven't had the level of funding necessary to make it ubiquitous. That itself would just bring down the cost per due to volume and scale. That, like, basically you're saying it is scalable, but like, you just don't have the money to do so now.
Yeah, I think that it's very early, and for what I'm hearing globally is that Italy wants nothing to do with cultured meat. Argentina wants nothing to do with cultured meat. And of course, in America, we have the ranchers that want nothing to do with cultured meat. I get it. That's their life.
I know one rancher that does not want
hundreds of years in their family. Right, exactly. But there will come a time where we have to supplement it with something. And I just think that, apparently, according to the Cultured Meat Symposium, this stuff's been around and in development for over a decade. I didn't know about it until like 2023. So it's just, and if I've only, come to know about it in the last couple of years, think of how freaked out and scared your average consumer would be by it. Sometimes these innovations that we want to make that could save the planet or, disrupt the food chain in a good way are very scary to a lot of people to adopt, and also very expensive for governments and or societies to adopt. So I don't know the answer there, but I know that we can't keep ranching and farming the way that we are today.
Yeah, just to quickly I agree with you wholeheartedly in terms of like I'm all in favor of like whatever synthetic meat that whatever is in the pipeline.
Yeah,
But what I can say also is like the Cultured Meat Symposium doesn't do itself any favors when you go to the website and it has like the least appetizing burger on its front page. It's literally like black and it's and interesting graphic that they've chosen. But I think this all goes back to like maybe I'm connecting things that are actually connected, but going back to like optics, and it's like you are, from what I'm understanding, you're expressing that there's this battles to be won over the optics of synthetic meats or cultured meats, where like there's you said Italy's opposed to it, but like if you can demonstrably show that like all the nutritional value is there, matches 1-to-1, all the taste is there and texture, but just the fact that it's engineered, just optically, people will not be on board with that. Just like thinking of like,
I think I get where they were going. I think they wanted it to look sort of like a metaverse burger, but it missed the mark. It definitely did.
I have no problem, but like, let's just say I would not blame anybody in the general public like going to this website. It's like, why would I ever want to eat that if that's what they're producing? That's the culture meat future. But like, yeah, a lot of it goes back to optics. Of again, walking into a grocery store of like seeing the red apple and the orange like does something, and like for whatever reason, and I don't agree with it, but just knowing that something is human engineered does something to some people, understandably, but for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and I'm Gen X, and we fell for all of that marketing hook, line, and sinker. The bigger, the brighter, the louder, the better. And I think that's a habit that we have to learn to break at the same time. And think about the food psychology. I don't know a lot about food psychology. There's definitely a lot of people who know more, but it's part of the whole package, the trickery, the marketing. They definitely give you that FOMO feeling when things are, when the optics are just right, like you said.
Yeah. But sorry to interrupt. I think Prime want to say something else.
Like looking at our food supply though, right? Like, is it just like cultured meats? Like for instance, like vertical farming wasn't, as far as I know, and maybe I'm wrong. But like this was just like a vegetable thing, or like like a plant innovation, right? Or at least trying to be innovation. Is there anything else other than like cultured meat that you're seeing out there? It's fine if you don't have anything off the top of your head. I'm putting you on the spot here. But like,
I know. I think we're seeing a lot of fermentation in brand new ways, which for me kind of blows my mind, because when I think of fermentation, I think of kombucha, and so how are we getting like a chewy meat source out of it? But I'm not a scientist. Trying to think of what else has been coming out in the world. Well, I just saw a clean color. Actually, they won the award at the Future Food Tech Show. They made an entire color portfolio out of mushrooms as well, and a fermentation process. And there's nothing synthetic about it, but it's that bright red that you want, Corey. It is like super duper. Your Fruit Loops are going to be as bright as day. So that's the kind of innovation, but it's going to be 2 years before they can get to market, because they still, they're just getting their first big rounds of funding, and they've got to go through and do all this, research and do the R&D. And so innovation is slow, and the world isn't stopping for any of us. So I don't have all of the answers, and I don't know which tech will win out. But to circle back to what Dr. Greg was saying, is that even in agriculture, we're seeing big tech and big ag companies unite, and that's just going to do more of the same, which gives them all the power to what? That we can trust with our food system to solve the world's food scarcity problems? I think not. I don't think John Deere gives a flying you-know-what about the world's scarcity problem. But I don't even know. I don't know how to answer it, because if you stack up all the things that could be wrong or is wrong with our food system, it seems almost too daunting to tackle. But if you break them down one by one and you pick your battle, go die on that hill. That's what I say.
That's fair.
That goes with the exact question, like the big leap forwards that aren't necessarily profitable yet, but that we need it at scale. I think that's the exact role of government, like in order to, we have, these technologies now, we of microbial fermentation, or, vessels, new, like, using old fermentation tanks from beer breweries and stuff like that, and rehabilitating them and making new stuff. It's literally the same stuff, and you can make that leap and into economy of scale, through government funding that and now we're in that space where something's renewable and sustainable, and it's actually profitable.
Yeah, but it takes us not going backwards, meaning stop repealing all of our World Health Organization, funding and partnerships, and stop repealing the EPA, regulations that keep our air cleaner and, our condemned refineries closed as they should be. I feel like we're going backwards. Again, I don't want to make this political. I feel like we're sliding backwards, though, and that's so disheartening to see. When our government what I feel we were so close to really getting somewhere with everybody, the EPA and the CDC and the FDA, and now I feel like we've just kind of slid backwards a few years. And the only thing I think that will keep going, honestly, is the tech innovation and that kind of science, because that's more money. That's where the money is for that. You know what I mean? They'll invest in that.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. One last thing that I want to ask, and again, if you want to share. So, sort of as you spoke about, this culture meat aspect, which, largely has to do with, how do we produce, how do we meet our protein needs or produce our protein needs, animal free, ideally. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on what I perceive as, now this movement of like packing protein into everything. Okay, protein into yogurt, protein into Doritos, protein in your Fruit Loops. And so it's like people have this issue with like this culture meat, but yeah, pack all the synthetic protein into every single product that I put in my mouth now moving forward.
Yep. Well, I think that it's not going anywhere. Like, if one thing I learned at the Natural Expo West show was that better for you, quote unquote, it's a whole category now. It's better for you brands, and they're going to be aisles of them now, which will be like protein packed gummy worms, and like I'm already seeing like brownie and cake mixes with extra protein added. But that's really, it's not. There's innovation there for sure, because nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals are coming out with new protein powders and formulations every day. And what's really interesting is that the Gen Z market really likes that stuff. To them, it's sort of like, okay, how can I still eat my sweets and feel like I'm being healthy? But let's be very careful not to have them fall for the same marketing that we fell for,
I agree. I do find it, pretty comical these days watching because like I mentioned this like maybe a few weeks ago of like in my in whatever the yogurt aisle in my grocery store, it's like every yogurt has now a high protein version. And I compared like the nutritional labels. It's like the regular version, it's like 14 grams of protein per serving, and then the high protein one is like two extra grams. I'm like, well, like, is that really high protein? Like 14 versus like 16 or 17, like, is that really a world of difference? I don't think so, but like that marketing is clearly working on some people.
Well,
so
can I
go ahead? I'm sorry.
Well, so I was just wondering, so this sorry, was it better living? Is that what you said, the phrase you used?
Oh, better for you. So it's like better -for-you, better for you brands. And that's all your Doritos with extra protein, and your mac and cheese with extra protein, and all your yogurts.
So, I this is my first time encountering this, so I don't have like a strong opinion, right? I'm just like this off the top of my head. It seems though that like the more like once you turn this into a brand to a label, like that thing can be co-opted. Not that like you shouldn't be pushing like, hey, like these are alternative options, right? Like, and that's fine, and it's also fine to monetize that. But I'm saying that like I'm looking back at the origins of Maha, right? Origins of like the it was like liberals who wanted to eat better, like make healthier choices, right? And so like they started this, and then that like got co-opted by like things like Goop, who were selling them this idea. So it was very liberal coded. And then it switched later on into a conservative coded thing. And now we have this like a space that's full of grifters, right? And so like my only concern, again, like I don't have a strong opinion on this because I'm only just hearing about like what you're describing now, is that whatever that is, especially when we're talking about like these like multinational corporations, right? Like they'll like co-opt it, just like the organic label, right? Everything's organic now. And people have like,
but there's actually three separate types of organic, and they don't tell you that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think that I think you're absolutely right. So when you see brands like Kraft Heinz or Doritos getting into the loaded with protein market, you know that it's starting to become oversaturated already, because big food companies are notoriously much slower than smaller startups or small and mid-sized companies that tend to be faster and more agile to get to market, right? Mm-hmm. So we're already going to see this major oversaturation of protein. The next wave is going to be fiber added. Lots of fiber, natural fiber, fiber extracted from this, fiber fermented from that. But what we need to do is make sure that we're keeping up with the labeling and regulatory compliance of those things. So you can't put on your label that it has 30 grams of protein if you're not taking into effect if that's still 30 grams of protein after it's been processed or baked or whatever, you've had some loss of whatever. And I was actually going to tell Corey to go to the Egg Foundation of America, I think. They're doing crazy things with eggs, putting egg protein in that won't taste like eggs at all, apparently. And then there's also another brand called David's Protein Bars that was majorly in the news a couple weeks ago because
I've heard about that.
It only has 150 calories. Did you cover this already, Dr. Greg?
I don't think you covered it, but yeah. No. I know it's making the rounds in terms of some of the claims or the bars did not live up to the hype.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're apparently what they're using is kind of a derivative of, Dr. Greg, help me out. It's the one like that Ally was in the 90s where it was the orange, like it's on the tip of my tongue. It starts with an O, but like the Lay's potato chips had it and it would call
Olestra?
Yes, Olestra. It's like a derivative of that. Mm. And so the question becomes, has this new formulation of that been tested enough? Because Olestra got pulled from the market because of its side effects.
That was pretty notorious and caused lots of issues.
So that's what we're working with is like, how many loopholes are we giving science and innovation to kind of slip in like this when it's like a derivative of a known brand or compound or something like that.
Interesting.
What I can say is I definitely do not want any 30 grams of fiber in any food product that I consume.
Yeah.
Metamucil's just fine.
We're gonna we need to build out our bathroom infrastructure then if we're gonna move down that road.
Yeah. So you're saying that the path here is with like a strict regulation, or maybe like a not necessarily even regulation, but like a certification process, so that like before you can actually like put this label on it, right? You have to pass some sort of test, maybe some sort of third-party organization coming in and saying this fits the definition.
Well, a certification would be different from regulatory compliance. In labeling. So labeling just means like you can't say that this is sugar-free if it's not sugar-free.
and you can't put no sugar added if there's even like a fructose fruit syrup added, something like that. There's just all these labeling laws. And this is really the only way that more regulations work, because big surprise, big companies, big corporations, big food wants less regulations because it gives them the freedom to do whatever they want. But in a food system, I don't think that flies. The way that this stuff can be regulated faster is by laws or guidelines put on packaging, so that if you claim something that your product doesn't do, that's going to open you up to a class action lawsuit, just like David's protein bars. So we don't know if David is lying or not, or what this, new ingredient will do. We'll wait for the courts to deal with that. But that's how you get brands to comply a lot faster with regulations, is by saying you don't want to open yourself up to a class action lawsuit by doing that, by putting something in there that may not be regulated, or by omitting it from your label when you want to put it in there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk with you in the future sometime about this, or whatever.
Great. Nobody ever listens to me when I talk about this.
No, this is fantastic. Yeah, we appreciate the level of expertise. At least for me, it's a place that I'm lacking. And so getting a chance to hear someone who knows what they're talking about is always pleasurable. You came to the right place. You want to be able to pontificate on something that you actually know about.
Yeah. And guys, I love the show. Dr. Greg, I think you're doing great work. And call me on anytime. I'd be happy to join.
Okay. Yeah. Friday nights is usually like our expert panel, and then where we have the other nights are like debates, and I'm having like randoms up and all that stuff. This is just for like experts preferred, trying to like have a more elevated, well-informed discussion, trying to like educate, and then also like talk about cool stuff that's happening. So this is awesome.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Okay.
All right. You too.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
All right. That was awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that. That's the best nutrition live I've ever seen. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Make sure, hopefully she's still in chat. Can you say hi in chat, and I'll pin your comments so that people can follow you. I'm sorry. I should have told people to follow you before and gave you like a sign off. I'm sorry, but thank you for hanging out. That was awesome. Chef Kelly, there we go. Boom, boom, pin comment. Guys, follow Chef Kelly, please. All right, well, we had an interesting development in ACIP, basically the vaccine board that went through and without any type of scientific due diligence or any study. If you remember, they just went through and were just like, it feels bad that we should have vaccines. And basically a judge reversed it in a severe blow. This is from the New York Times, the first two paragraphs. In a severe blow to the Trump administration's health agenda, a federal judge in Massachusetts on Monday blocked the government from implementing a series of decisions on vaccines made over the last year by the HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. The ruling also reversed, at least from the time being, all decisions made by the panelists that Mr. Kennedy appointed to the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, which is ACIP, which makes recommendations on vaccines that Americans should take. The court decision will prevent the committee from meeting later this week, as it was scheduled to do. And then within a day or 3 days, basically Robert Malone, who is a grifter that has reinvented himself as the inventor of the mRNA vaccine, when he has nothing.
Awful person.
Yeah, genuinely an awful person. Responds on X, ACIP is actually disbanded. We're disbanding ACIP. The government's response to the AAP lawsuit and Judge Murphy's injunction is to disband and then recreate a new ACIP committee, as this will take less time than would be required to file and prosecute an appeal. There will be no action from the government to respond to the defamatory characterization of the former ACIP members.
Yeah, not surprising. I have mixed feelings about this in terms of like, you know, I'm glad that this ruling happened, but I also recognize that, you know, it's largely sort of like ceremonial. As highlighted in the article, they're going to appeal, and in typical fashion, like no matter what, they're going to find some sort of workaround.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate the fact that these medical organizations are like trying to push back against this administration and trying to like stand on the science and doing whatever that they can within their power to like try to uphold, you know, well, ACIP and, you know, the scientific endeavor. But yeah, no surprise, sadly, that like, well, yeah, like I said, it looks like they're going to appeal and like they're going to just find whatever loophole, just like Trump will pretty much find whatever loophole that he can exploit to get whatever he wants.
Yeah.
That's the overall just tactic of this administration.
Yeah, it's wild. What are your thoughts, Prime?
I think this is what happens when you're not in power. And this is the back and forth. I mean, like that doesn't mean to. I don't mean to be flippant and be like, you know, like this thing like doesn't matter or anything like that. It's just like, you know, this is what it looks like, you know, when you don't have the reins of power. I think that within these times we have to be, you know, creative. Like the judicial system can only do so much for us, right? And especially a judicial system that's been overrun with like Trump appointees, Democrats hadn't been pushing flooding the judges in the way they should have been. I think Biden was better on this than Obama was, if I remember correctly.
I believe that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But like still, like the fact of the matter is, Trump has already stacked the deck here in his favor. Still, we've had victories with Trump appointed judges because the things he's been doing has just been so like on its face awful. So, you know, there's still room there, but in the end, the judiciary is slow and like hard to react to these things, right? Like, and it can only do so in a certain sense, right? So, and instead, like, what do we do? How do we handle these things, right? Like, well, when we're talking about these like advisory committees that have these important functions, I mean, it might be worth it to like work around them, right? Like, I think we brought this up during our last stream or something like that. Like, there was basically like, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Like the since the FDA and the NIH has been like, you know, undermined, that like outside organizations, like there was the American Pediatrics or something, right? Like we're taking on the responsibility of making recommendations now, right? Like, yeah. So like things like that, right? Like understanding that the government is now literally hostile to like science and scientific advice, and just saying, okay, we don't like this thing that we took for granted for all these years, we can't now, right? And let's start like creating organizations, creating workflows that like size up and marginalize the government, at least for now. But honestly, I think it's best to have some sort of parallel track, right? That's more in the hands of people like actually doing the science, right, rather than like the under the winds of politics, right? So.
Yeah, I largely agree with you. Sorry, Greg, go for it.
No, go.
I was just
said, does that make sense? Yeah.
But then just, you know, clarify, it's like, and I agree with the overall sentiment of like, hopefully other institutions, credible institutions, like you said, and as involved in the lawsuit, you know, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, let's say, take up the mantle, and like, but are you sort of also maybe of the opinion of like this lawsuit should not have been like taken up in the first place, and we should just focus our efforts like elsewhere? Or like, do you view this lawsuit as like a waste of time type of thing?
No, I mean you got to like fire all cylinders, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
So I think
fire.
we have to.
You have to fire
You
everything
go first.
you have. You have to fire everything that you have. But also, honestly, my first reaction was scared, and I was like, "Oh no!" Because what happened the last time that this went up to SCOTUS, the district court judge blocked the president's action. Trump was trying to do something, and they basically went to Supreme Court and said that you can't have judges stopping the president of the United States, and they agreed. So now we have, basically even more powers congregating into the hands of the president of the United States because of that SCOTUS decision. And I was basically worried, like, imagine basically now that going to the Supreme Court and them ruling with the Trump administration that a district court judge can't stop a rogue federal agency because they're going to argue that there's some national defense reason for are you saying that there's no way that the president could nominate an HHS secretary that there's poisons in our food that it's a national security way that we need to stop production of something that's dangerous that's happening? SCOTUS will absolutely say national defense always in the president's hands, and they would say that the vaccine stuff was in national defense. And I think that you would have even more of erosion of that power and more concentration into the president of the United States. So it's kind of like one of those things where sometimes you don't want to see things like go to SCOTUS, right? Because you're afraid of what the president will set. But I think I genuinely, if we do that and we play that game, that prisoner's dilemma game, we just always lose. We never have a chance to actually stop this insanity from going forward. But I do think this is this weird trick of like, oh, a judge blocks us. Okay, we've disbanded. I'm back. Yeah. And you're like, wait.
Time to rebrand.
Yeah. And it's the exact same people. And it's like, oh no, I'm totally different now. Like what? Like how is that legal? Like how that's what's crazy to me now. It's like, so I'm really like, the application of this could be just like wild, like, oh, you shut down ICE because of what happened in Minneapolis, or there's those agencies are now in political turmoil. Okay, we shut down ICE. Okay, now it's back now. Like what does that mean? How far could we take this?
Yeah, well, I think we get a sort of a hint of it, or I think we also see it play out when it came to the Supreme Court like ruled against the tariffs of Trump, right? But then pretty much like I think within hours, or like more or less like immediately, like Trump came out saying, well, that's not really going to stop me. I'm going to find some other way to implement these tariffs, like no matter what, because like no matter. They're always going to find a loophole. They have, I think it's pretty clear. I'm hoping it's clear. Well, obviously not, but I think it's clear to us here that there's just less respect for law, and like it really is like whatever the agenda is, they're going to do whatever it takes to find whatever loophole.
I'm going to double down on this idea of parallel power structures, because like that was one of the reasons why Trump was able to get into office in the first place. Now, this might lead you to believe that maybe what I'm about to say is a bad idea, but like, let me make the case. So when Trump was first running, there was a lot of pushback from within the Republican Party because they weren't stupid. They could see like what a disaster he'd be. But he was, eventually overcome by the people, because it turns out their base is much more horrible than they anticipated. But in any case, the point is that within like the structures of the RNC, right, there was very little support for Trump, very little. However, what had also been built at the same time was a parallel funding system, right? Like before, all candidates had to go up through the RNC and make their case to the RNC elders and get their funding and their mailing list and all that through the RNC, right? So that was a way of having a bit of control over the candidates. However, a separate system was built, and that was through the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers created their entire parallel system of funding and networks and advertising and what have you, right? They had an entire different system, and they thought or I'm not sure if the other Koch was still alive at the time, but one of them thought the network thought that Trump would be a good idea, and so they assisted him in his rise and helped legitimize him and all that, right? So he was not accountable to the RNC in the same way. Now, I know that might have not ended badly for what I'm about to say, but the point is that you can create systems parallel to governmental structures, and those things can have their own legitimacy. There's buy-in, right? There's community buy-in that creates its own legitimacy. And if we build larger and larger networks, that gives us power, right? What I was talking about before was billionaires' power, and that it's very easy for them to do that. But I think on the other end of this spectrum is that we can do similar things. Much harder if we don't have the money that they have, to put that focused effort in there. But these things are absolutely possible. So we should be creating parallel systems. We should be doing organizing outside of it. And organizing always sounds vague, but actually organizing can work, right? You just have to focus in on the area that you're good with. Our friend Greg, he's organizing right now, right? Through his website that he was mentioning before, right? Through the tools he's making, right? He's been helping you all, right? His fans, actually use your power, and interfere with both electoral politics and the day-to-day political fights. So you make yourself heard. You guys actually have had action, results on that end, right? So again, organizing works. Building up these parallel institutions, whether they be in terms, right now we're talking about science, right, and specifically health. But why is it that the NIH is the only the biggest source of funding, right? And the only real source of funding that scientists really start with, right? It's there and maybe some other grants on the side, but it's the the NIH, right? Could there be another path there, right? Another way of providing funding or maybe even just advocating for these different projects, right? There might be ways to do these things, but it will take innovation, it'll take effort, sustained effort, in the way that billionaires can have sustained effort through their money. But it's not impossible. It's been done before.
No, I agree with you. Not impossible. And in that vein, although this is not necessarily an optimistic story, but yeah, there was a story in the New York Times about how, well, pretty much they were covering a case of as we've covered here, a lot of NIH funding has been cut, and a lot of actual researchers from many institutions, they've had their funding cut. And in the New York Times piece, they were covering this specific case of a researcher, an aging researcher at Harvard. They had they were pretty much one of the victims of having their funding cut, and they had to go through, or pretty much they wanted to continue running their lab, as in they had all of this staff, all of these researchers, technicians, lab managers, and then pretty much almost overnight, they mentioned the story of they just got an email saying, oh yeah, your funding's gone. And they document in the article that he had to dip into say his salary that he got from tenure to start paying people. But then he also, as you were sort of alluding to, he did literally try to reach out to actual private donors of like, wait, if we can't get the funding from the NIH, which is like, as you said, the majority funds the vast majority of science in the United States. And I think pretty much, if I remember correctly, the biggest science funding of science like globally. But maybe Greg can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But all that to say is, yeah, this researcher at Harvard, when their funding was cut by the NIH, like they literally like started going out to like solicit private donations from people and individuals and companies. And let's just say it was mildly successful, but like, as you said, this is hard work and it was difficult. Like there were some people that wouldn't do it, but like, yeah, it was just not enough to sustain that.
What if we had a an organization that was like a clearinghouse for these things, right? Like one, like as a like I'm thinking from the aspect if I was like a private donor, right? I'm imagining I had money. I don't, but like I can use my imagination. But like in that situation, right? Like, okay, where am I going to put this money, right? Like I'm interested in doing something interesting with it. Like this money is not necessarily meant for growing, right? Investing, but like some quote unquote charitable causes or whatever, right? Like, well, there is a very established track for like, donating to homeless shelters and or like your local LGBTQ like advocacy group or whatever, right? There are ways like clearinghouses where you can like look through these organizations and see like, okay, well, are they doing what they say they're doing, right? Like is this a reputable place, right? So I can have confidence that like where I'm putting my money is actually where it's going to get, not in someone's pocket, right? Like, so we have a track for that. Well, why not for science too, right? I'm sure like a lot of people will be interested in helping out these different projects, right? But like they don't know how, and they've never had to before. This is a novel idea for many of them, right? And who knows, this guy trying to scam me? Like honestly, who is this guy, right? And
True.
So, what if we had a clearinghouse for that as well, right? Where you could submit your case, right? They could check, hey, are you an actual scientist, right? Like Dr. Greg, like are you who you say you are? Do you have a team under you? Do you have a proposal? Does this proposal like make any sense, right? Like is it the whole 9 yards there, right? You could actually do that, and then start soliciting, right? And once people like start building confidence in that, then they'll be ready. And the time to do this would have been obviously before this moment, right? So that we'd be prepared, right?
Agreed.
But it'd be what it is. What it is. But like that doesn't mean we can't start now. Make some sort of like a powerhouse here, where like because even through the NIH, like not everything got like funded, right? And it's not necessarily because it was scientifically unsound, right? There could be all kinds of reasons. So why not have more funding for science? We always keep saying, we've been saying here before how much that investment magnifies, right? Its benefit for society, right? So I think other people can recognize it, not just us here, right? And so such an organization, I think, would be very valuable.
Yeah, I agree.
You definitely need to. I mean, basically, the process in order to give money through an NSF grant or an NIH grant that's like an R1 grant that's like the one that's funded at Harvard or something like that. The process is the administration puts out a pool of money and says that this is what we're going to do. We're cancer moonshot, which is what like Biden did, for example. So we're going to put $10 billion, for this. And then that money is basically allocated in subpools. So in order for us to, impact cancer, we're going to have, a $10 million prize pool for machine learning algorithms in order to do this. Or we're going to have, molecular methods in order to attack cancer cells. And then, so there's pools of money that are basically allocated. And then those are the grant pools. And then basically the professors kind of like submit proposals in order to get money from those pools. So, and then other professors, so their peers would like look at these grant proposals. They're all anonymized, so that they're not, so people from like Harvard just aren't getting everything basically. And that is a huge problem. basically like HBUs and stuff aren't like as competitive in regards to a lot of this stuff. So like success begets success kind of thing, because they don't have R2s, R3s. They don't have the core services. They don't have like the $1 million microscopes. So they need to like use their grant in order to buy $1 million microscope and stuff like that. And then they basically, the professors all take turns to present the grant as if it's theirs, their grant proposal, and then they all vote. So that's kind of like how it's done like right now. You'd need to, I think some of them are like, some of that process is really important, like anonymizing things, anonymizing the names, anonymizing the institution. But to be honest with you, like, who's doing targeted gene therapy in humans, and you have a new grant that's saying, hey, I got a new tool in order to do targeted gene therapy editing in humans. It's David Arlou, like we know who that is. So that is,
yeah, you can only anonymize so much, especially like if you're the one or two researchers doing this specific niche research
in the world. Yeah. So it's like the people in the field kind of like know. So that's kind of like the problem too in like these scenarios where it's like private funding is going to be only going to the top 1% of science ideas. That's good in the fact that like they're more likely to succeed, let's be real, but it's also bad in the fact that those longer like moonshots, those harder to get that money is going to like completely transform an R3. They're going to use that to buy that microscope, and now the entire university is going to be changed because of that grant. They might have like an entire institution that they found like just around that instrument now. So it's tough. It is really tough,
but not impossible.
Yeah. I mean, genuine, like in my opinion, a lot of these places like Harvard, especially during these cuts, they have an endowment. They do not need federal funding. Like they honestly, like they should be going private funding and stuff should basically be going to R2s and R3s. They have like literally tens of billions of dollars in endowments, University of California, Harvard, Yale, all these kind of stuff. If anything, we should be taxing the endowments of these Ivy Leagues, specifically because they were literally created like, with the history of slavery, like slaves built the buildings in Harvard, and that is where that wealth started accumulating. And it's just wild to me that it's not okay. And now that they lord over, $55 billion of an endowment, and they have money in order to pay for their own research for a little bit, like they I don't know. I feel like we need to give R2s and R3s way more money.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm all for giving virtually just increasing funding across the board. Cause as I think Prime brought up, like the rate of return is just like so high. It's almost like a no-brainer. I don't see why there would be any backlash. Is just nonsensical.
It's very risky. Any type of like biotech or something is going to be, 90% of startups fail, and then 90% of successful biotechs fail, because you could have a successful business that just fails because the science sucks. It's very, very risky. Biotechs and that kind of stuff are by far the most risky investment that people can make. So that's why they, people take it out of biotechs and they put it into like cryptocurrency or something, for example, because it's like, that's still a speculative asset that actually has like a higher ROI. But so that's why you have like times like now, that's why you have so much money like flowing out of biotech R&D.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't disagree there. Like for sure, biotech is one of the most, if not the most risky. And like, I think there are a variety of reasons for that maybe we can explore on a future panel of like, but I think a lot of it has to do with just, whatever, bad incentives and also, poor quality research and reproducibility and all that stuff. But yeah, separate conversation. But definitely for sure, currently biotech is one of the most risky, if not the most risky.
Yeah. And that's why it has to be done, and that's why it has to be funded at like the public level, just because it's inherently not going to be profitable for decades, you know, and that's why it's so nefarious, the funding cuts that are in the center of these decade-long, you know, jumps of like technological leaps. You know, like, I mean, the GLP-1 agonists are a great example. That mechanism was discovered in 1995 with Gila monster metabolism studies. And then that's just now getting to mass market now, you know? So it's literally 30.
Well, to be clear, what I was thinking wasn't like another investment fund into these things. It was more like a donation type thing that like, hey, these are worth this is worth like a place for public good, right? And where we should like be investing in the social sense, you know, paying it forward type of thing. But even then, that's harder, right? Because the big money wants its money to grow, right? Like in the end, when we're talking about private funds, right? Like there's only so much, especially the American public as it is right now, is able to give. And I think it's actually easier. This is going against my point, but like I think it's easier for people to like, you know, give to a specific cause, right? Like like race for the cure for breast cancer, you know, right? Like that's like a something they can kind of grab onto rather than scientific innovation, like for its sake, you know, wherever this might go, you know. But like I really agree with you, and just in general, like, you know, this idea of, is it the R1, R2 like research levels? These are research levels, like that measures their capabilities as to like being able to. Okay, yeah,
like
so,
like the top of the creme de la creme, the, you know, the UCs, the Harvards, that kind of stuff, and then the R2s and R3s. I mean, we're talking like an R3 has a net worth of like $100 million, and like an R1 is going to have like $20 to $50 billion.
Yeah, like it just like imagine because I this idea of this like the $1 million microscope. I guess an electron microscope or something really fancy with a very long name. But like
the pocket microscope.
Microscope. Yeah. But like, so like this idea of like, you know, the compounding benefits, at these different schools, like, yeah, like imagine, you know, you brought up HBCUs, but them and others, right, who are within that strata, right? Imagine the benefits of like all the people who go through those programs, right? Having access to that $1 million microscope, right? One, they get experience, right? Just like straight up, they get experience, and then they're more employable. You have more people who with more skills, more specialized skills within your economy, just like starting off, right? But beyond that, even the research done within that institution, right? There's just going to be more people who can like do those interesting experiments, those innovative experiments, and like more diverse opinions and perspectives, right? To bring to bear to a problem than like the types that make it through an R1 program. Like we see it all the time, right? Like these like great innovations that come from like unexpected places, I'll say, right? Like when we like open up the space for like, you know, young talented innovators to like, you know, do a thing, right? And we're like constantly surprised as to what these people come up with. Well, let's just like empower them with the tools, right? Like, yes, these less resource school, I'll say, right? Like just because they're less resource doesn't mean those kids that are coming out there or coming through there are any less valuable, right? Like they're like a human capital. We should be investing in them like all the way. And it's just for like, I don't know, like 5 days of our current war. Like imagine how much we should be investing.
Wait, correction, excursion, not a war, excursion.
Excursion, excuse me. Yes.
But I do think, Prime, like a good source for your funding that you're talking about are states. Like states like benefit economically because of economic development that happens within these these universities, because they're local businesses that are going to like create a business community. More business community means more business taxes that are created within these local and economies. So like it kind of like comes down to like how, like if you have universities failing, not be able to do their research, then like I feel like you could have states like actually taxing, making a tiered like progressive tax system, based off of endowments, and then try to kind of like redistribute like some of that money.
I love what you just said, because this calls back to something else you said previously. You talked about I think it was the place you were working previously, but you were talking about like how there were certain specialized chemicals for your experiments, and that like you had the source of those chemicals, those compounds, or whatever, like close by, right? You were working in some sort of research center, and those companies that sourced you, right? Like you could just like make an order, and then like the next day it'd be there for you, right? So like you're talking about making like an investment. So like, but those companies aren't going to be able to source like your institution if your institution doesn't have like the equipment to be able to use their product, right? So it becomes a virtuous circle. Like once you start investing in this thing, where investing in an institution. So okay, well, I'm an institution. Look at all the fancy things I can do, right? I need a vendor, right? Oh, okay. Well, we got a new client here, a new vendor. We can either open up a new spot, or someone else can do a startup that can, that can source all this for you, right? Like that, like helps, like just like irrespective of like our friend Dr. Greg, like coming up with a successful product, right? Right there, massive economic opportunity. Right, like right what he just described there leads to exactly what we're looking for. So yeah,
I believe it might be Froud. Oh, he's back.
There you go.
I'm back.
I was praising you in case you
It's irrespective of me. I'm sorry.
So I'll just quickly. Irrespective of you like creating a successful product, right? Like before we even get to that point, right? Like we have like a situation where we're having a lot of economic activity, right? And especially like specialized scientific economic activity that has like the benefits right there. That's that place that startup that started sourcing Dr. Greg. Well, now that they're established, right now they have like a small customer base, they get to expand, and now they're sourcing people worldwide, right? Like this is all great ways. And then that state benefits, everyone benefits from these things, but it takes investment into these situations that aren't immediately profitable, I guess.
I think that you can couch this in it's economic development. That's like the technical term for it. And you can also like couch it in like small business loans in order to spin out these like companies, in order to from these universities, in order to create that economy, that business economy that like you're talking about, that creates the specialized equipment and stuff like that. Like I think that there's a huge opportunity for basically like the Democratic Party to really push for like small business in this country. And like that's exactly the route. I think like you bolster the universities, the cities, the states in order to create more competition. Like there is no way that our market can be 40% 7 companies. Like what is going to be the next Amazon? What is going to be the next Google? What is going to be the next Nvidia? Like we have to be pushing that, and we have to be like innovating on that sense. And I feel like we've just kind of like lost that. There's so much concentration of like wealth and power in these, and now Nvidia being like so big, so gigantic. It's just they're mega monopolies at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And like as you know probably better than I do, Greg, of like a Boston, like huge biotech like hub. I see no reason why you can't just have multiple biotech. Now, maybe I'm just not seeing it. But
yeah.
like,
Yeah, they do. So basically, like the West Coast to East Coast, you have like San Diego, San Francisco. LA has a little bit of one, but it's not huge. Like Seattle has like something going on. And then
Yep,
you
you
have,
know of obviously, yeah, Boston, the ones that you like, pretty much a little bit on the East Coast in California, but at least those are the only ones that I like. Is there one like in Texas or like do other states?
no, there's North Carolina has a research triangle that with UNC, and there's stuff going on over there, which is kind of cool. And then with Broad, MIT, Harvard, and Massachusetts, from Cambridge. So those are really like the big hot spots that are happening.
They've been wildly successful. Those like I was thinking like the North Carolina research triangle actually. Those have been extremely successful, and I don't know why we can't be like replicating that. If not, maybe for the same like sectors, that might be too much, but like for different sectors, right? There's like all kinds of niches that aren't being filled, that are being properly serviced, right? Like why aren't we doing that? Like we have such an incredible university system here in this
For
country.
now.
Like
I mean,
for now,
you should say that the like all these places are hurting. Like in San Diego, there is down bad right now because of all this 30% of all the NIH and NSF grants, like we were talking about before, have all been cut. So it's like a lot of these companies and the universities, which are the lifeblood of kind of like this stuff, is that money ending like severely impacts the entire community of businesses that are centered around them. So but I mean but that's our way back. I really feel like that's a real big like it's good politically and like for technology development in the future.
did you guys let's see if I can pull it up, but there was a article, it's around here somewhere, I'll find it, about like I already found it. So this is in the New York Times. I'll send you the archive link. But it was about like how Doge was making its cuts.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, these guys are unbelievable.
All right, I've seen some clips of like them being, I don't know, whatever, interrogated, I guess, or interviewed. But
so insane, dude.
Yeah. That's yeah. So that's a link. It's a New York Times article titled for everyone else. When Doge unleashed ChatGPT on the humanities, and like they were deciding how to make these cuts, and they like asked ChatGPT, "Hey, does this like grant?" They put like this the grant summary or whatever the fuck into ChatGPT, and they ask, "Hey, does this have anything to do with DEI?" And then ChatGPT told them yes or no. And then that's how they made the cuts.
Prompt one go, billions of dollars like halted like because of it. It's just, and the interviews, the depositions are just wild, man. It is crazy how just I don't know. I really hate those guys so much. I don't know.
And then there was the other article, and I think this is an earlier stream that we had, right, where I talked about a specific article where one of the Doge boys, right, he was sitting around like he was like I think eating or whatever he was like not paying attention, and like they're like the committee was just presenting these like NSF grants to him, and he was just like yay or nay. He was like, he had no investment in what was happening, didn't care. He was like, yeah, that one's good. That one's not good. That's good. That's not good, right? More investment into what was going on his phone than these like massive research projects. We just decided. I mean, some of those products you're talking about, Dr. Greg, might have been cut exactly like that, right? This one dude, this one kid who had no investment, no expertise, and didn't give a damn, right? Was just like, nah, I'm cool. Cut it.
DEI was the craziest part of the deposition. They're like, can you give us your definition of DEI? And he was like, it was whatever was on the executive order. And he was like, yeah, but like right now, do you have an understanding of DEI? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, so then what's your understanding of DEI right now? And he was like, whatever it was on the paper. And it's like, dude, you don't even understand. Like,
I think he did. No, I think he was hiding his pile. I think he does have a definition, but he knows it sounds so bad, right?
Yeah. I think he
that
understands the acronym, but he doesn't understand like deeper than that.
no, it's not even like, so what I mean is that, like, yes, there is DEI, right? The concept that, like, was something that was executable policy, but beyond that, I'm saying he has a conception of a DEI, right? And he knows that, like, in this moment, it will be disadvantageous to him if he says what he actually thinks,
Sure, I understand what you mean now. Yeah. I definitely think, yeah, he's not going to just like go. Yeah, he's hiding his power level. I can see what you mean.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I was gonna say no, but just last thing, just very sad. I guess just of what I saw of the clips. So like these people, and like looks like just like pretty much kids or teenagers, like allowed to go in and like just chop away at huge amounts of research. This is a very sad state of affairs.
It's so like, and it impacted more than like these DEI like programs, like that's the thing, is that they created instability in the market so that basically investors pulled their money out of the United States and they decreased. I mean, it's called capital expenditure. So CapEx. So basically companies weren't investing in creating more jobs in the United States. They were pulling the companies were pulling their money out and countries were pulling their money out. So like, for example, Germany pulled 50% of all their research and development dollars that they had invested in the United States. They pulled it out in 2025. So it's like that's because of the instability, right? When you have long-term, decades-long research programs, if you have like turmoil for 4 years, it doesn't make any sense. You just rather just like do that stuff in other countries. So it's just, they just do. And if you're a company or a country, it's easy to just go to another country when the United States is the foreign land,
Yeah. And Donald Trump would say, nailed it. That's exactly what I meant to do, in fact.
Exactly. I just feel like so much is and people, I mean, I have like anti-vaxxers or whatever in chat, saying it's like, well, they think that when I got laid off, like I was doing something with DEI, and it's like, no, like the point is that like science outside of these things that you would love, cancer medicines, like other, huge things like that, always, they got cut too. So it's like, we could have, cascading impacts for a long time, unfortunately because of this. So, hopefully we don't, but
DEI just equals bad for these people. And so like, the fact that they disagree with you politically is enough, right? And justification enough that this must have been a good idea, right? We didn't lose anything, right? Like, and it's like this incredible, like, like ostrich, like, hiding its head in the sand, which I guess they don't actually do, but like whatever. It's like this type of behavior, thinking that there is no danger around here, like we aren't actively being hurt, right? Like we haven't lost massive amounts of opportunities, right? Like they don't want to actually like deal with that. They don't want to actually understand that the person they voted for, right, the policies that they thought were going to be so positive, have like dealt a massive economic, political blow that we are going to be feeling for decades.
Premise frozen for me.
Decades. These things don't turn back on, right? Let's say like you prefer JD Vance and assuming JD Vance isn't as much as an idiot as Trump, which is a pretty good assumption at the very least. But still, like, yeah, if you assume JD Vance would be better and you're excited to vote for him, that doesn't mean that this money just comes back, right? That's just not how that works. These places they're going to be invested in other places, and there's like an institutional continuity. And
oh, I think he's frozen.
Are you there?
Wait, I'm back.
Right?
I'm
his
back.
audio is there. Oh, and his video is there.
Yeah. So I was just saying there's an institutional continuity, and not momentum is the word, inertia is the word I want to use here. Institutional inertia that happens, right? That once you're settled, once you've established some sort of process, right? Like in another country, right? There's no reason to change unless there's a reason to, right? There was no reason for those other countries to pull their money out of the U.S. unless there was some stimulus, some emergency that happened. Trump provided that, right? Otherwise, they would have just kept their money here for like decades and years, right? They would have kept doing that. This also happened in terms of like countries using American technology, right? Like we Trump and Biden were like banning like Chinese corporations from using American technologies, right? We were putting those prohibitions in place. There's another word for this. I'm blanking right now. But in any case, right, we were denying them the ability, and so these companies, which would otherwise, even though like they're part of a rival nation, right? Still, these were just companies doing business, and they wanted to continue doing business. And the easiest way to do business, right, is to use Microsoft Word. But we cut them off. We provided the stimulus for them to change, right? And so they did. And so as they created their own networks, their own programs, right? They gave their Chinese counterparts now an opportunity. They took it, and now we've created our own rivals. We've created our own rivals there who will come back later on and compete with us, just like we saw with the cars, right? Will come back and compete with us and maybe outcompete us. That's already set in motion, right? There's no turning back. It doesn't. You can't just reverse that.
Exactly.
I agree.
Well, I think my pneumonia is catching up with me. I got a wicked case of the pneumonia right now, guys. So, but I guess you could like closing thoughts, outros, whatever you guys want.
Yeah, Prime can start if they wish to.
I guess I said everything I was going to say. But thanks for having me here. Hey, come follow me at Twitch .tv or youtube.com, kick.com, and TikTok, Prime Kai, PRIMECAYES. Love to have you. Thought I was fun to listen to. Do debates. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. So yeah, come through.
And you can find me on Twitch, CoreyCam84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, TikTok. It's Corey Campbell. And if any of the anti-vaxxers want to come back next week and debate DEI, I'd be more than happy to expose how they probably don't know anything about DEI. But yes.
Okay. I like it.
Out there.
Okay. I like it, dude. All right, guys.
And also thank you to Chef Kelly for sharing your expertise.
Appreciate you for coming up. That was a cool conversation, and
we'll have to talk to her again. She's and check out her page. It was like delicious. It was like so it was so good. Yeah,
you got a hard follow. You got a hard.
Yeah. I already followed. Yeah, I'm there.
With all his bot accounts, he followed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Have a good one.
Be well. Hope you recover quickly.